pocket aces on the button. The same opponent from the last hand opens to 120 from middle position. I 3-bet to 380 expecting to win without seeing a flop. That might be what happens in an average vlog session, but not today. The opponent 4-bets to 1200. He has 730 behind. It's tough for me to fathom that this is real life right now. I take a stack of yellow 1K chips and I announce that I'm all in. The player can't really fold anything given the price that he's getting. He calls. We're playing almost a 4K all-in pot, and the opponent asks if I want to run it multiple times. I'm not in the mood for potentially chopping the pot. Let's go once. That's right, we're going one time for all of it, and I'm glad we chose once because the flop is ace 8-3 with 2 hearts. We flop the nuts. The turn is the jack of spades. There's nothing to be worried about. The river is the 7 of spades. The only hand that beats me is 10-9 for the straight. That's not what the opponent called a 5-bet shove with. We win our first all-in of the day. It comes at a great time. This is an epic comeback. In this session alone, I went on almost a 12K downswing, which by itself would have been one of the top 5 worst downswings of my life. Usually when it happens, it's spread out over weeks or months, and it takes weeks or months to get all the money back. Somehow we're winning 1,000 on the day due to the 5-10, and we're at least even in the 10-20 session. Actually, we're not quite even in 10-20. Remember that we're in for 2 10K bullets? Well, I get a count, and I kid you not that we have 19,900 in front of us after stacking the opponent. We're 100 short. Now how dumb is it to not walk away when I could have a win on the Bellagio trip locked up, and I could leave the 10-20 table almost completely unscathed after getting torched in a $10,000 hand earlier. It's about as dumb as it gets. Who cares about booking a tiny loss at these stakes if I can cash out for 99.5% of what I bought in for after going through all this stress? The answer's me. I didn't get this far to not book a win. It's over 7 hours into the session, and I'm pushing it to the limit. I just need to win one small pot to finish that journey from the deepest part of Stuckville that I've ever been in, and I hope to never go back there. We've got pocket aces under the gun. I'm pretty sure the pre-flop guide suggests that we raise in this spot. That's what I do. I make it 30. The cutoff calls. The small blind wants to exercise his right to 3-bet. He re-raises to 150. This player's only been at the table for a few orbits, but I've already seen him jam in a few weird situations that didn't really make sense. I want to go heads up with him in position. I 4-bet to 350. This should be enough to get the player behind me out, but the small blind will still be getting a good price to call with the worst hand if he wants, or he has enough meat behind to potentially 5-bet jam as a bluff. This guy seems like a bluffer. The cutoff folds. The small blind doesn't take long to consider his options. He basically snap calls and has 925 left in his stack. I don't care what the run out is, I'm going to find a way to get all my chips in if I can. It's just the two of us in what's already become a very big pot. The dealer puts out king 8-6 with 2 hearts. The opponent had kings. All the money would be in the middle already. I hope he has ace king. He's got something that he likes because he leads into me for the maximum.
Call.
Once is good. Yeah. I hate chopped pots more than my camera hates focusing on the board. We're running it once, and there will be blood. The turn is the 7 of diamonds. I have no idea what cards I need to fade, or even if I'm in the lead. The river is another 8. Apparently, it's a good run out for us because the opponent doesn't seem to like it at all.
You don't have anything? Ace 10. Nice.
The small blind has ace 10 of hearts. He got it in with a flush draw, 1 over, and a backdoor straight draw. Glad I decided to run it once. It's tough to dodge hearts on 2 boards. We get every dollar that the player has to be up over 1,400, and we're not even close to done. I'll be sending you your cuts in the mail. I'm also glad that we pick up pocket aces in the big blind. A good pro who I was in the 10-20 with earlier opens to 30 on the button. I make it 120. There's nothing like being at the very top of my range in a short-handed game when I should have tons of light 3-bets, and the opponent is good enough to know that. Everything that has a tint of red in this chart is what Upswing says that I should be 3-betting with in this situation. There's all kinds of suited connectors and even worse garbage hands like 6-5 and 5-4 offsuit that I can theoretically mix in. As a consequence of that, you'll see top players 4-bet from the button with a relatively wide range. That might be what's going on here. The opponent 4-bets to 290. Every time that I think to myself that this day can't get any better, the day says, hold my beer. The opponent has 1,800. I want to get all of it. I announce a 5-bet of
750.
I didn't need to make it too large. The opponent is getting almost 2.5 to 1. If he calls, he'll have 2/3 of a pot-sized bet left in his stack, and he won't be able to fold on almost any flop when I jam. I'm hoping that he's thinking ahead, and he'll rip it in himself right now to save us all some time. That's what happens. He 6-bet shoves for piles. I call. We're about to play a $3,600 pot. I take a deep breath, just hoping it'll go our way. then we both signify to run it once for all of it. There will be pain for one of us and glory for the other. The dealer puts out 6-5 deuce with 2 hearts. It's great that there are no high cards, but we don't have the ace of hearts. It's scary for that reason. The turn is the 4 of clubs. That's not great because even if we're ahead, the opponent will have chop outs. It's all going to come down to the river. It's not that often that I feel more alive than this. The last card is the 7 of hearts. The button shows that he has ace-king offsuit. We have him beat to win another massive pot tonight. This is one of the most exciting cash game sessions of my life. We get a final count just to make sure that I have him covered. I've got him by about 150. I'm literally shaking because I'm so excited that I'm running this well. The yellow chip comes our way. I love acquiring those. We've got 3750 in front of us and are up 2250 and 510 after already winning over 2000 and 1020. The best part is that it's not over. This is when I need your help. On the count of 3, we're all going to jump as high as we possibly can and then land on the like button at the same time. We did this in the last video and we got the 2-piece McJiggities. Let's see what happens this time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're dealt pocket aces on the button. You all did your job this time and we got rewarded for it. The cutoff limps in. I raised to 50. I've been raising a lot of medium strength hands to isolate limpers. This should help me get value when I'm at the top of my range, like right now. The small blind is a vlog watcher who usually plays in the limit games, but hopped into the 510 to get some of my money. He 3-bets to 150. It's a small 3-bet considering he's out of position. I haven't seen him 3-bet much. I get the feeling that he has a strong hand. The big blind cold calls to 150. It's an interesting play. There's lots of action already. The cutoff folds. It's back on me. I want to narrow this down to one opponent. I 4-bet to 700. Certainly on the larger side. The thing is that if the small blind calls, the big blind will still be getting almost 3-1. Another interesting thing is that in this casino, the betting is capped at 4 bets. This means the small blind can't 5-bet. That doesn't stop him from trying though. He slides in about 1,500 more before the dealer informs him that he's not allowed to do that. It's pertinent information for me because the opponent has a hand that he's willing to get it all in with pre-flop for over 2,000. Most likely he has kings, but his enthusiasm makes me think that he might have aces as well. Once the dealer gets a 700 for the call and gives the remaining chips back to the player, he has 1,340 behind. It's less than the amount that's in the pot. The big blind knows that he's up against 2 monsters. He folds. We're heads up with a massive amount of chips in the middle. I'm hoping it'll be all low cards coming out. The flop is queen 9-3 with 2 diamonds. If I'm up against queens, I'm going to throw up. The player is still trying to pile in as many chips as he can. 600 is the most that he can put in. The action goes quickly from here. I raise to 1,200. The small blind announces that he's all in for 1,340 total, and I call. In a session full of big pots, this is by far the largest one for me. We get some good news.
2 kings.
I have aces, yeah. I lost in the last session, but overall I've been running good for a few months. I'm kind of expecting something terrible to happen. We just need to fade 2 kings. Unfortunately, we don't do it. The turn is the king of clubs. Just kidding, it's a queen. We're 1 card away from winning a pot of over 4,000. The river is another 3. We've done it. I show the aces. The opponent flashes his 2 cowboys. It's a brutal beat for him. Lately, I've been winning some huge pots. A lot of things have been going my way. In the previous 3 sessions, I won 3,100, 3,700, then lost 900, and in this session, I'm currently up 3,950. That would change when I pick up pocket ace in the cutoff. What a beautiful sight. Under the gun tried to straddle, but got his chips in after the cards were dealt, so it's a blind raise to 10. Under the gun plus 2 3-bets at 25. I like how this is going, but wait, it gets better. Middle position player cold 4-bets to 100. It's difficult to express in words how happy I am right now. I feel like taking the 4-better out to a steak dinner. I'm going to make this more. I cold 5-bet to 250. Under the gun and under the gun plus 2 both fold. It's back on the middle position opponent. He's the gift that keeps on giving. He 6-bets to 600. I started out the hand with 970. He shouldn't be folding anything for 370 more. For that reason, despite dropping out of the election, the player seems to want to carry out Yang's plan of giving everybody $1,000, and I'm going to be the first recipient. The opponent makes the call.
Good luck, boys. Oh, man.
Sick.
Player has kings. It's a massive pot. One of us will be going to the Upatun Peninsula, and the other is taking a one-way trip to Paintown. A lot at stake here. Flop comes out 9-8-4 with 2 hearts. We have the ace of hearts. The opponent doesn't even have a heart in his hand. We're in great shape. The turn is another 8. The opponent's drawing dead to 2 outs. There's almost no way we can lose this one, right? Well, the river is bad news. For those of you who are rooting against me, for those of you who are rooting for me, it's great news. It's a jack of hearts. We get a queen run out to win a huge hand in a 7-bet pot. It's a major cooler situation, the type of hand that wasn't going my way very often towards the second half of last year. Now things have turned around and I've started running good. I'm up almost 1,000 on the night after getting off to a rocky start. The player with kings is named Alex. He's a good dude who takes the beat about as well as possible. There's nothing he could have really done differently to lose less there, especially with a run out. Next we have pocket aces in middle position. Under the gun +1 limps in. I raised to 50 to isolate him. Under the gun +1 calls for 40 more. We're heads up. The flop is a dream. It's ace king 10 with 2 clubs. We have top set on another flop with a lot of draws. The opponent checks. I've seen him play for a while. He doesn't like folding. Against players like these, I usually bet often and I bet a lot. Here I down bet to 40 just to keep him in there with a wide range or induce a bluff. The player must have somehow connected. He calls. Since I know where 75% of the aces are, it's likely that he either has a king or a 10. The turn is another 10. We improve to a full house. Under the gun +1 checks. Time to increase the bet size. I make it 130 to go. The player calls quickly. Might even have queen jack. The river is the 3 of hearts. It's a complete blank. The opponent checks. I'm going to take advantage of the tendencies that I've noticed that he has. I'm going to target his holdings containing a 10. Perhaps he'll have a straight or an ace and could think that we're chopping since there's a pair of 10s on board and a king is the highest kicker possible. I bet 500. It's a fairly large overbet. I'm glad I chose a big sizing because it gets called immediately. I turn over the boat. The player shows that he has queen 10 offsuit. He flopped bottom pair with a gutter, then improved to trips. It's a great run out for us to make nearly as much as possible. We're getting some big hands and we're getting paid. It's a good combination. I call my friend who's a doctor. He tells me that the remedy for that is pocket aces. That's what we have in the small blind. The hijack opens at 30. Our nemesis from the last few hands calls in the cutoff. My opponents today have not been in the mood to fold at all. For that reason, I 3-bet to 180. In a typical game, I'd make it 150, so I went larger than normal for maximum punishment. The hijack folds, cutoff calls as I expected he might. We're heads up in a large pot. The flop comes 7-3-3 rainbow. It's a dream flop because the range that I put the cutoff on consists of I have no idea. This might actually be a terrible flop. Who knows? This guy likes to play 3s. That's scary. I see bet for 150. I want to keep the player's high card hands in. That'll be drawn close to dead. The cutoff takes the bait and calls. The turn is a jack. I'm praying that he somehow has one. It's time to pump up the heat. This is the first really good situation that I've been in since before Florida. I slide in a bet at 350. I want to set up a river shove. I imagine this particular player will call if he has any pair. Sure enough, he does call. The river is a 4. Not too worried about it. I have the opponent barely covered. He has 650 in his stack. I announce that I'm not 100% sure what I'm up against, but I'm fairly certain that I want to call. The cutoff comes through and puts in a calling chip. I flip over the aces. They're put out in front of the opponent for him to see. He doesn't seem very happy. He's holding onto his cards, so I don't see what he has. We get a count for my stack. I indeed have him covered. After what seems like forever, the man finally concedes the election. I mean the hand. A massive pot is pushing our direction. We're in for 2,900 total. We have 2,800 in front of us, so we're actually still stuck a little. Now some of you might be thinking, oh wow, you won with a set of aces. Not very impressive. It's easy to win when you're holding cards that good. For those people, you're not going to like this next hand. We get pocket aces again. This time we're in the big blind. A player in middle position opens at 30. I have no idea why he decided to raise when I have pocket aces. I can only speculate that he's involved in some kind of Brewster's Millions type of scenario in which he has to squander a fortune, and this is his attempt to gamble away 5% of that right now. We're lucky enough to be in a spot to take advantage of this. I raised to 120, making it much easier for the middle position player to lose quicker so that he can focus on running for mayor. Of course, the opponent calls. We're heads up out of position, and the flop comes ace-jack-9 rainbow. We've got top set again. There are a variety of ways that the middle position player could have connected. I down bet to 100. The middle position player calls. Maybe he has a jack or possibly even a set of jacks. He could also have a hand like king-queen suited. I'm feeling pretty good about what we've got, but we already had a set of aces in this session. 3 aces isn't cool anymore. You know what's cool? 4 aces. We've got quads and a 3-bet pot. The only issue is that it's going to be really tough to make money unless our opponent has pocket jacks or is willing to turn a hand like king-queen or queen-10 into a bluff. I give him some rope with a check. We don't get the player to bite. He checks back. The river is the 6 of diamonds. It's a complete blank. I don't see how I'll be able to make much money on this board given how it's been played. I'm not going to overbet this. Instead, I make a tiny bet of 50 to make it look like a blocker bet. This will certainly get a call to someone holding a jack or even a 9, but what I'm really hoping to do with this sizing is induce a bluff from a missed straight draw. I want to appear as if I'm afraid of being beat, and I'm naming my price. Instead of raising, the opponent calls, we turn over the nuts for the win.
I would have called up to about $1.50.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation that doesn't come up that often when you actually have too good of a hand and you're trying to get max value. I'm glad to at least have gotten an extra 50. The opponent would later tell me that he had a jack. It's great to run this good. We're up about $12.50 on the day. Now I've got aces under the gun +1. Phil limps in on my right. I raise the 20. The cutoff and button call. Andrew calls from the big blind. Phil comes along as well. The flop comes queen 10-4 with 2 hearts. It's check to me. I bet small and put out 35. It folds to Phil. Let's see what he does.
I'm gonna raise it. I'm gonna raise 130.
I've got a very tough decision now and go deep into the tank. I raised under the gun +1 after Phil limped in, so there's no reason for him to think I'm weak. I bet into 4 people on the flop, making it way less likely that I'm weak. If he's bluffing and trying to get me to fold an overpair, it's just a gutsy play by him. I check my cards again to see if I have the ace of hearts, but I don't. That makes me lean way more towards a call because it's now a lot more likely that he could be raising with the ace high flush draw. If he does have a big draw, I'm a slight favorite. If he has a made hand, I could be a huge underdog. There's a lot to think about, and I don't love my spot because I know that this player in particular is capable of dodging bullets. What happens next is one of my favorite moments that I've ever gotten on the vlog.
This is a tough one, man. All right, I'm gonna lay it down.
Don't fucking lay that shit down.
Show it. You
Turn
gotta
one
show
card
it.
off.
You gotta show it. I fold.
Yeah, I have you beat. But turn a card off. What the fuck are you doing? Don't play so good against me. Turn one off, dude. Let's go. Wow. Next. Okay, you can fold. That's all right. You would have won. So.
Queen 10.
So very good. That fold was too good. I wasn't expecting that. Like, you won that hand. Even though you would have ended up winning the money, you would have gotten it all really bad. But you saved your stack instead of just giving Wilhelm you 600 or 700 with aces, like the rest of them would have done, like the world would have done. You somehow, like he would have 100% have done. Alex admits it.
I would not have done that.
You would have folded aces.
Sure.
No, you would have called one straight, sucked down, and then tried to get the
And then
last
I would have
500.
gotten all of it from you. Every penny.
No, then I make the great laydown. But it was a very good fold. Max credit.
On to the next table, and shortly after taking my seat, I pick up pocket aces under the gun. I open to 15. Under the gun +1 calls, the button calls, the small blind calls, and the big blind calls. Everyone's trying to ruin my day. It's going to be tough though, because we flop what is referred to as quads. That's right, not just clickbait, it actually happened. Wouldn't do you like that. Checks to me, I want to get maximum value, so I bet 300. This bet looks weird, but it's designed to look weird. There's no other way to get paid when you flop a hand this strong. You have to hope one of your opponents either doesn't believe you and calls light or drilled the flop too. With 4 other players involved, there's a good chance I'm up against somebody who wants to get on the vlog and is going to call light or who has pocket 5s. Just kidding. Sorry to waste a lot of you guys' time. That didn't really happen. I did flop quads, but I checked the flop. So did everybody else. The turn is a jack. There are 2 clubs out there now. Checks to me again. This time I bet 15. It's a tiny bet. I'm hoping to get calls from really weak hands or perhaps induce a bluff. Under the gun +1 calls and the small blind calls as well. Not sure what their plan is for the river, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Dealer puts out another 5, which is a great card. Small blind checks. I bet 50. Under the gun +1 surprisingly raises to 125. The small blind folds. It's back on me. I'm hoping that somehow the opponent has a 5th ace. I re-raise to 300. The opponent folds. I table my hand. Eventually, the player reveals that he had 6-5 of hearts. We end up getting a great run out and win close to the maximum.